tried to make myself a cold brew only to realize that I was basically out. So we're having a mini cold brew, which is fine because this is my second coffee of the day anyway. So we're having a mini coffee. Hi guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my monthly budgeting video. I try to do these videos almost every month. I'll either do like a budget check-in video or I'll do a full reset video where we talk about goals. But today we are solely talking about budget. I'm gonna be going through my March budget and reflecting on, did I stay on budget? Did I not? We're gonna go through every single transaction that I made in the month of March, and then we will set up our April budget after we reflect a little bit on March and figure out where our money is really going. If you're new here, hi, I'm Krista. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I just have a lifestyle channel over here. I love to take you guys through my life. I like to say it's getting through our 20s, which encompasses a little bit of everything. I work a 9-to-5 corporate job. I try to balance staying healthy, but still going out with my friends. And I love to work out, but I love to go out and have a cocktail. Love fashion and buying things for myself, but I also want to save money and prepare for my future. So all about staying balanced over here. I do a lot of vlogs. So if you are new here, make sure that you subscribe and stick around. I would say in general, March for my budget was a pretty standard month. I stayed pretty much on budget except for a couple categories, which you guys will see. One of the trends to my budget for the past year, if you've been watching these videos for a while, is paying for wedding things, which is actually coming to a conclusion here very soon. We will pay our final invoices in April. The wedding part of my budget is starting to dwindle and kind of go away. In June, we will no longer have a wedding part of our budget because that will be done and over with. So that's kind of exciting because you'll see in March, it's a big chunk of my spending money. Just little things come up that I have been purchasing. I will say our final vendor payments I'm tracking separately because they're coming out of our wedding fund. They're not part of my monthly budget, but if I just buy randomly like table numbers or a dress or whatever, that does come out of my monthly budget. When wedding is over, I'm thinking about doing like a wedding Q&A, and if you guys have any specific financial questions, I would probably answer most of them in that video, but in general, I'm not planning to do like a huge wedding budget video or anything like that. I have a few goals this year when it comes to my finances, so whenever I sit down and I look at my budget, I always think it's good to kind of reflect on what those yearly financial goals are so that we can keep them in the back of our mind when we are budgeting so that we can meet those goals. Because if you forget about them, if you're not thinking about your goals, especially if it's like a specific monetary goal, you're less likely to meet that goal. If I have a goal to save $1,000 and I start in January, it's a lot easier to meet that goal than if I start in June. So I always try to keep them in the back of my mind. A few of them that I'm working on actively: fully fund emergency fund to $10,000. I was able to put a good chunk into that this month, which I'm happy about. We're at about almost $7,000 in that account now. I actually think we're gonna meet this goal soon, within the next few months. Pay off $6,000 in student loans. I'm putting $500 a month on them, which will meet that goal. Fully fund our honeymoon. Our honeymoon is coming up in June. I'm so excited. We are pretty much fully funded. It's hard to know how much you're going to need. I will say a lot of people have given us money for the wedding as like a honeymoon fund kind of thing. So that has helped a lot to get us up to where we feel comfortable going on the honeymoon. We also were able to book all of our hotels solely through credit card points, which obviously saved us a ton of money for the honeymoon. It's just hard to know exactly how much you're gonna need. I've never gone anywhere for 2 weeks. The longest vacation I've been on was like 6 days. I've never been anywhere much longer than that. So we're saying 5,000. Obviously, it'd be great to have some wiggle room. All leftover money into savings at the end of every month. I am doing this. It just depends on what I need to save for. For example, this month, all my leftover money went into the emergency fund saving bucket. One no spend week every single month. I have been doing this. I didn't film it this week, but I'll show you guys what I spent in my no spend week in March. My February no spend week, I only spent $20, which was like the craziest thing to me. I did do that in March as well. So I just always like to check in on these, make sure I'm reaching and headed towards my goal. Like I said, my goal in life in general is to save for my future, but also save for fun things like vacation, because no day is promised. And I think about that all the time. Without further ado, I'm gonna share my March budget with you guys. Here is what we are looking like. So starting over here at my income, I've explained this before, but in case we have new faces, I always feel like I have to explain. I budget off of $4,000 a month. That is basically my corporate income minus retirement, taxes, and saving. I do put additional money into obviously retirement, my 401k and my Roth IRA every single month. I also put money into our savings accounts depending on what we have left over from my corporate income at the end of the month, which I don't share those exact totals. I haven't quite reached the point of feeling totally comfortable sharing how much money goes into our savings accounts. My budget that I like to share is really just my spending money. So $4,000 a month for bills, expenses, things like that. This month you will see my income is listed at $5,000, and that is because I did take out $1,000 from our wedding sinking fund. Again, at the end of every single month, whatever money I have left over goes into our savings accounts. We have a few different ones kind of separated into buckets. One of them is wedding, we have fun, we have emergency, we also have a taxes one. Our wedding sinking fund, I'm starting to use it because we've saved for this for over a year. We have wedding expenses coming up. I budgeted with $4,000. You can see I only had 50 cents left to budget. I spent $4,900, so I went over budget, which is why I took out $1,000 to cover where I went over budget, which you will see is mainly wedding expenses in the budget. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense to me in my head. You can see here we're right on track. Bills, my budgeted versus my actual. Expenses, my budgeted versus my actual is quite a bit higher. And then my debt right on track as well. Savings, you can see over here is blank. Again, I just keep that to myself. Same with additional income I make from social media. I really do my best to only live off my corporate income. I also did get a raise back in December, and I did not change that $4,000 limit on the budget, even though I got a raise. I am not gonna lie, I'm debating changing that $4,000 limit, but I am really trying to avoid lifestyle creep. So I don't know the best thing to do. I don't know if the best thing to do would be make my spending limit, instead of just a flat number, make it a percent of my income. So say my spending limit, I don't know what it is, but say it's 90% of my income for spending, then that would increase as I make more money. That's kind of where I am. I'm thinking about changing it, but we'll just have to see. I'm gonna have a lot of big budget changes in the future. I'm still figuring out how that's going to work since we are getting married. We're gonna be combining finances. I have no idea how I'm gonna handle that yet when it comes to budgeting and sharing it especially. So we'll just see. I'm chatting. Let's get into the budget. Starting over here with my bills, these never change. Rent is $14.43. That's only half. Me and my fiance split that 50-50. I pay for our car insurance because he pays for our Wi-Fi and our energy bills, and it kind of comes out even. I actually think his is probably a little bit higher, but I pay car insurance at $130. AT&T phone, $95. This is my phone bill is $50, and then I pay for my phone on an installment plan on top of that. So $95. Pet insurance, $67.50. Gym, $59, which is my Hotworks membership, and iCloud, $299. So this never changes. It's interesting to think about. I have no clue what our budget is going to look like when we do combine things. Obviously this is all going to be way higher. There's bills in here that he pays for that I don't have to worry about, like Wi-Fi, like energy. He pays for our cat's pet insurance. So many of these things really will increase when that day comes. I don't think we're in a rush to combine money. There's so many things that you have to do. Like I have to change my name. I am changing it. So I need to get that done, but I don't want to do that until after the honeymoon because my passport. We are going to combine eventually, but we're not in a rush. I will say it's going to take some time to do all the proper paperwork and whatnot. Running over here to debt, student loans. Like I said, I put $500 on them every single month, which at the end of the year will be $6,000, which is my goal for the year. I would love to increase this. I do think I'm going to be able to increase this after we're done paying for the wedding. Coffee break, please. Now for the fun part, the expenses, what I really spent this month. Groceries, I budgeted $200 and I spent $117.94. Happy with that. Dining out, I budgeted $100 and I spent $50. Happy with that. Car, I budgeted $150 and I spent $175.85, so I went $25 over. I'm fine with that. This month I had to renew my registration. I feel like people are always very interested in how like couples split things, so I will explain. I had to get an oil change and get my car inspected, which I believe was like $200, and Will took the car and paid for that. So then when the car was back, I had to pay the taxes on the car itself. I paid and I renewed the registration. So we kind of like split that task somewhat in half. half. We're not like penny pinchers about splitting things. It doesn't have to be exactly even. It's just kind of whatever works out. So I went a little bit over, but not too bad. Shopping miscellaneous, I went really over. I budgeted 100 and I spent 318.28. We will get into everything I spent down here on the transactions tracker in a little bit, but definitely went over on shopping miscellaneous. Home, I budgeted 0 and I spent 0. Gifts, I went over a lot. I kind of expected this. I get carried away when it comes to gifts, but I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. So we'll go over that as well. I budgeted 140 for my dog's dog food and I spent 141.09. Price went up, which is interesting because in my previous budgets, his dog food is like 135. Tracking your expenses like this, it's really easy to see when prices increase. Like my car insurance increased randomly this year. The dog food has gone up, and it's interesting to see really how these expenses that you track so meticulously, they'll like just those increase the price and they don't even tell you. It's very interesting to see. Health and medical, I budgeted 50 and we came in way under at $5. Coffee, I budgeted 20 and we came right on track at 19.37. Beauty, I budgeted 300 and we came in at 290. Happy with that. I feel like I always go over on beauty. Uber and Lyft, I spent 0. Travel, I spent 0. This is actually not great. I budgeted 350 and I spent 0 because I need to buy a plane ticket for a wedding at the end of May. However, we are having some issues scheduling when we're going to be able to come in for that. So we're trying to figure some things out right now before we can buy that plane ticket, which drives me crazy because I'm someone who likes to have these things done and planned. We have our hotel already, but we're just kind of trying to figure out with work when we're going to be able to fly in, which is why we have not bought our plane ticket yet. It's another one I'm going to be budgeting for April, but hopefully we can buy it in April. Social activities, I budgeted 50, I spent 795, and wedding, I budgeted 135 and I spent $1,281.63. Yeah, we'll chat about all the things I bought for that. But if you go over here to where my money goes, you can see rent is always my biggest expense. I'd like to keep it that way. And then lately, wedding has been quite a large chunk as well. This just makes me realize how excited I am to not have that expense, that wedding expense, because holy cow, $1,281 just in my pocket instead of going to wedding expenses. Like that is more money in savings. That is more money in my travel bucket, more money in my shopping. It's actually crazy how much and for how long wedding has taken such a large chunk out of my budget. Going down here to my transactions tracker, the first thing I want to look at with you guys is actually my no spend week that I did in March. I highlighted it here. So my no spend week was the 9th through the 15th, which I want to say was a Sunday to a Saturday. I do 7 full days. So let's talk about what I spent during my no spend week this month. First of all, I spent on 2 bills, which I don't think counts. You're allowed to pay your bills, right? So 500 on student loans, 95 on AT&T came out that week. Gifts and donations were a larger one. I had a baby shower gift and the baby shower was coming up and I needed to get one more thing. So I did go ahead and buy that week. We also had a unexpected pet loss in my family. That was awful. So I sent flowers to my parents for that. It was very sad and very unexpected. I did get some groceries, which is okay for me during the no spend week. And I did spend $7 on printing some photos for the wedding. So all in all, if you don't include the bills, I spent $103 on my no spend week. If you want to include the bills, I spent $697.76. I don't think it's too bad. It's not my best no spend week that I've had, but all of these things were like, I need them now. I'm still honestly pretty happy with that no spend week. Next thing, I'm gonna go up to the budget name and I'm just gonna sort it by A to Z. This categorizes everything together so you can go through every single thing and see where you spent money. Beauty at $290 this month. I got a facial and my nails done. Car, like I said, my renewal was $153 and then I got gas as well. So that brought it up to like the $175 mark. Coffee, I got coffee out twice, both at Sycamore, which is funny. Dining out, looks like I only paid twice. This is another one my fiance definitely pays way more for this. So that will be interesting to see what we really spend on dining out out when the time comes. Gifts and donations, this is one that I went way over on the budget. So let's see. For the baby shower, I spent a total of $157.57. $60 for the flowers, and then I also bought something for the wedding that I'm gonna be in. So definitely went over a little bit there. If it wasn't for the flowers, I think we would have been more on track. I'm not too mad about it. Groceries, I was on track with this. I believe I spent $150, so not mad about that. Health and medical, I just paid for a medication, $5. Shopping miscellaneous, this was one that I went way over. So let's talk about everything that I bought in shopping miscellaneous. In hindsight, this is one that I could have avoided. I don't think I needed to buy this dress. It was on sale and I just did it kind of impulsively, but definitely somewhere I can identify that I didn't need to do that. I paid $20 to order some checks from my bank. I don't have checks, and a lot of vendors want checks for final payment, so I had to order some checks. Bathing suit, I spent $65. I'm going on a bachelorette in 2 weeks, so that is a lot of this is shopping for going on that bachelorette. I originally was going to do Nuuly or Fashion Pass, but they just didn't have what I wanted in stock in my size. And I had been checking for weeks and everything was always rented out. So I did end up just purchasing some things for the bachelorette. $65 for a bathing suit. I got a new camera that I'm so excited about. I'm going to be doing like a little unboxing and showing you guys in my next vlog, but I bought a few accessories to go with the camera. So I bought an SD card and a mount for $55. To me, that was necessary. It's an investment in my channel and I'm okay with that. Boomba, hopefully these are worth it. They were pricey. They're the like sticky bras. Again, I kind of needed those for the bachelorette. And lastly, another bachelorette expense, $107.79 for some dresses, which I don't think is too bad. I actually got them all on sale from Selfie Leslie. I got 5 dresses, and Fashion Pass itself is like $140 a month. So Fashion Pass would have costed more than the dresses that I bought that hopefully I get to wear multiple times for a long time. To me, it was justified. I do think all of these expenses were not justified because I went way over on shopping miscellaneous. So that's something to keep in mind for next month to maybe reel back that shopping. I paid for parking as social activities. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about all the wedding expenses that I accrued this month. If you are a bride planning a wedding, these are things that you don't think about when you're budgeting. Our budget for the wedding pretty much only included vendor costs, right? And you know, some decorations here and there, but all these little things that you buy were not in my original wedding budget. I have stopped tracking the wedding budget. I know how much we paid each vendor, but I'm not tracking these little expenses in my wedding budget because I just don't want to know, if I'm being so honest. I don't want to know the final number. I know what we paid the vendors and that's good enough for me. I don't need to know. The rest of this is just coming out of my monthly budget. I bought some plastic bins. I actually have 2 different charges in here for the plastic bins. We have this one at the top at $110 and this one at the bottom at $38.34 for a total of $148.75 spent on plastic bins. Our planner wants all of our stuff organized into plastic bins. So I went to Walmart, which I thought would be the cheapest place to get them. And I bought a ton of plastic bins. So that's a cost that you don't think about. My dress alterations, they're gonna be $600 for the dress. I paid half up front. That is for a French bustle. My hem, I did need it hemmed like an inch. And also she's taking in the sides a little bit. So $600, which I thought was fair. From what I know about wedding dress alterations, I was kind of expecting around $500 to $600. So I'm pretty okay with that. That's like right on what I originally budgeted. I did budget for my dress and dress alterations in our original wedding budget. Wedding day gifts, I spent $120.01 for gifts for my dad and my mom and my future mother-in-law. I don't know what this one was. I didn't explain, just wedding. Okay. $23 on unknown, $460 on rehearsal dinner. I don't know what that was either, if I'm being so honest. $460. I don't remember what this is either. $460 though, that's pretty high. The only thing I can think of is I did hire our photographer for our rehearsal dinner, but I don't think I paid for that this month, so I'm a little confused. Well, another unknown expense. I printed some photos for the wedding for $7.15. I bought place cards for the rehearsal dinner, $47.18, so that everyone would know where to sit. I bought our wedding infographics that go on the seats for $55.50. I bought some mints as a favor for the rehearsal dinner, $25.51. I printed more photos for the seating chart, $13.28. I bought our table numbers, which were $56.85. I originally was going to DIY our table numbers and do like the stone, travertine stones, but honestly, I just don't have the mental capacity for any more DIYs or anything like that. I'm like pretty burnt out on everything at this point. At this point, I feel like what we have is what we have. I'm not buying more decorations. I'm not doing more stuff. I'm kind of over it. I'm over spending money on it. That's where I am with that. $23.94, I bought some shoe straps to make sure my shoes stay on, and I bought some flower tape just to have extra, like as an emergency thing for our bouquets. And then again, $38.34 on plastic bins, which brings our wedding expense total to $1,281.63. So many little things just come up that you don't even think about when you are planning your weddings. There's last minute additions. Not all of this is necessary. You don't need place cards, you don't need infographics, you don't need mints, but you also want it to be nice and you want it to be how you like it. So it's definitely a give and take with that. Okay, I actually just checked my credit card to see what that $460 charge was. It was a dress, actually, which something I actually made a monthly goal for the month of March was to treat myself for my birthday, which I did by buying myself a dress that I fell in love with for our rehearsal dinner. I knew I was gonna buy myself something, maybe throw a party for my birthday. So I decided to do two things at once and buy myself my like dream rehearsal dinner dress as my present to myself for my birthday. However, I don't wanna like talk too bad on the company yet. I will still give them some time. This dress has not really worked out for me. First off, it took almost 3 weeks to get to me. It didn't ship for 18 days from ordering, which was I think 12 business days, which, you know, I tried to have patience with that. It's whatever, I'm not in a rush. But at this point I am in a rush and it's too big on me. So I'm trying to exchange it for a smaller size and they are not responding to my emails. So take that with what you will. I might have to just end up getting the dress altered, which I didn't want to do, because I'd love to resell it after the fact and make some of that money back. And I think when you alter a dress, you're less likely to really be able to sell it. We'll see if this dress even works out for me. I don't think I would order from this company again though. So kind of like sucks a little bit that I splurged on this dress that I thought was my like dream dress, and it just hasn't been the best customer service in my opinion. And I give people grace. Like I understand things happen, but you can respond to my emails. And I've said in the emails that I'm kind of on a time crunch, and yeah, we'll see if that dress works out. I might have to rush order something else because at this point we only have like 30 days for this to exchange and all work out. So we'll see what happens, but that is what that $460 expense was. Overall in March, I feel like I did a pretty good job. If you took out the wedding expenses, I would be well under my $4,000 budget. So I'm not too upset about the other places that I went a little bit over, like the shopping miscellaneous, the car, the gifts. But I still do want to share these expenses because I think it's just things that you don't even think about when it comes to wedding planning. Let's get into my April budget. The first thing I like to do when I'm budgeting for a new month is look at my calendar and look at what I have coming up, because that helps me think about what kind of money I'm going to be spending. A few things that I know are going to be really big in April. Since it's the month before the wedding, I am doing like every beauty treatment under the sun, which almost never happens. I never have hair, Botox, nails, facial all in one month. They're usually spread out, but this month I have all 4 of those beauty appointments, which I need to keep in mind because I know that's going to be a big part of the budget. The other thing I have coming up in April is I'm going on a bachelorette. Most of that stuff is paid for. It's a cruise. So, you know, once you pay up front for the cruise, at least all your food and everything is covered. I'm sure there will be some other little expenses that come with that, but it shouldn't be too big. But I do want to keep that in mind that I am traveling for a weekend. I'm paying all our wedding vendors this month. Again, I kind of track that separately, but it's good to think about. I also have 2 friends that have birthdays in April, so I like to keep that in mind. I don't live near them, but I usually will like to send them coffee money or something on their birthday. So something to think about with that. So hopping into our April budget, I'm budgeting with $4,000. Bills, nothing there is going to change. Same as March, and same with our debt, $500 going on my student loans this month. Groceries, I'm gonna budget $150. I've been budgeting $200, but I've been coming in significantly under that every single month. So I'm gonna try to lower that this month and just budget for the $150. Dining out in bars, I always budget $100. Car, I'm gonna budget $40. That's pretty much if I need to get gas, but the car was all taken care of in March with everything else, so I think I should be good there. Shopping miscellaneous, I'm gonna budget $60. You never know what comes up, but hoping to keep it lower, at least lower than it was in March. Home, $0. We don't have anything with that. Gifts and donations, $50. I think I'm comfortable with that. That's enough for me to give both my friends coffee money for their birthdays. Pets, $140. I need to check in if that dog food increased in price, and if so, I need to adjust my budget, but I'm hoping it was a fluke I know that's probably delusional of me, but pets 140, health and medical 50. I could probably lower this, but we'll keep it for now. Coffee 20. This is usually enough for me to get coffee out 3 times during the month. That's a good budget for me. Beauty, like I said, 600. That's a huge beauty budget. My nails will be 80. My facial will be 175. My hair will be like $300 or $400 probably if I had to bet. And then Botox will be another 300. So we might even be under budgeting for this, which if we are, I do have my separate beauty fund that I can take money out of if I need to, but hopefully we can stay around that 600 mark. Uber and Lyft budgeting 20. Travel 245 for my bachelorette that I'm going on for that weekend. This is another one that I think is gonna end up being over, but again, I do have sinking funds I can take money out of if I need to. Social activities, taxes, and wedding, we're budgeting 0. Most of my social activities this month will be traveling, so they will go into that travel area. So I'm budgeting 0 for that. Taxes, I budget 0, and I only put in 30% of what I make from social media. So say I make 500 bucks on YouTube, which I would say is about what I make every month. I usually put about 150 into my tax sinking fund, but I don't budget for it because I don't know how much I'm gonna make from YouTube. So I always just wait to see how much I actually make on YouTube before I put that 30% in. And wedding, we're phasing wedding out of the budget, you guys. I'm budgeting 0, which I know makes no sense, but at this point, whatever I spend on the wedding is coming out of my sinking funds. I don't really wanna be spending much more of my own money on wedding things. So we'll see how that works out. That is the April budget. Areas I know I'm probably under: beauty might have to come out of a sinking fund, same with travel, and definitely with wedding. But it really just all depends on how my income shakes out for the month on if I actually end up needing to take from sinking funds. How my social media for income works, it's not a crazy amount of money. I think if it was a lot of money, I would want to share it more because it would really affect my budget. But I really, like I said in the beginning of the video, try to live off corporate income. So let's say I make 500 on YouTube. I put 150 into my tax fund to pay taxes on it at the end of the year, which leaves me with $350 from YouTube. My goal is to always put that money into a savings account, so it goes into a sinking fund. So I have 350 from YouTube. It might go into my beauty sinking fund, which then later on I use that money to fund that. So like for example, this month I might actually be using that money to fund beauty. That's how that works for me, just as like a better explanation. Putting the money into taxes is a new one for me this year. It was a goal of mine to put 30% of all social media income into a tax fund because I'd never done that before. The taxes, I feel like I am like, ignorance is bliss, but I can't be like that anymore. I definitely need to pay more attention to that kind of stuff. And that was my goal for this year, to pay more attention to it, save what I'm supposed to save, and that is what I have been doing. Overall, for our monthly budget reflection, I think I did pretty good in March. If you take out wedding expenses, I was under budget, so I'm happy with that. April is gonna have a little bit of travel, paying our final wedding vendors, kind of saying goodbye to that financial chapter, which is so exciting to me. We can move on to other things. I want to invest more in my retirement. I want to pay more on my student loans. I want to build up our emergency fund. I'm really excited to move on to other financial goals because it's just been a long time coming with all the wedding expenses. Starting in June, we will no longer have the wedding expense in our budget at all. Very exciting time. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoy financial transparency on the internet. It helped me so much years ago to kind of see like, oh, people are tracking their money and know where their money's going. I should probably try to do that because I did not do this for a very, very long time. I lived in ignorance, but now I feel so much better knowing where my money's going, how much is coming in exactly every single month. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all so very soon in my next one. Bye guys.